Okay, we're all set.
Okay, I have 6:31 p.m. Today is Wednesday, November 4th, 2020. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. Do we have a flag, Randy?
We do. Here it comes.
Okay. Dan, do you want to lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Great, thank you. I always feel like I hear in the back of my mind, welcome, Monsignor. Welcome, Reverend Mother. All right, let's get going. Mr. Randy, how are our public comments? Anything?
I got to do roll call first.
Yeah.
Okay, Trustee LaRue,
Here.
Trustee Marks, Trustee Everson,
Here,
Trustee Wiegand,
Here.
Treasurer Johnson,
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Kangas, our legal counsel Roger Zappa, and staff planner Ryan Dietrichson's here.
Excuse me. Excellent. Now how about emails? I already did my roll call, so I knew everybody was here.
Okay, I don't have any emails, Lynn, but there's a few folks that have joined on. I don't know if any of them want to make public comment.
Sure, thought I'd check with you first. Yep, we do have some members of the public. I don't know if you are Zoom capable and you want to change your settings and speak to the board. That would be fine now. I'll give you a second just in case there's a delay in transmission. Just here to observe. Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate that. Okay, then we don't need any board member comment. So tonight's consent agenda consists of approval of regular meeting minutes of October 20th, 2020. Bills payable, the amount of $198,939.39. And we have the November utility billing calendar. And that's really it with the consent agenda.
Move for approval of the consent agenda as presented.
I'll support.
Okay, roll call, Randy?
Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Trustee Everson,
Yes,
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes, and Supervisor Durant.
Yes,
Motion carries 7-0.
thank you. Then unless there are any changes, I would accept a motion to accept the rest of the agenda.
So moved, the agenda as presented.
Second.
Multiple supports. Randy?
Clerk Rattari is yes, Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Trustee Everson,
yes,
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, thank you. I'm not aware of any conflicts of interest for this meeting. So next up is board education. COVID-19 update. I thought maybe John and I could give you a little bit of an update as we get them each week from the health department. I'm not sure if the doctor will have retired by tomorrow for our next meeting or if we'll have someone else, but every Thursday morning at 10, about a dozen supervisors and managers meet virtually on Zoom to talk about what's going on in the community. And in the last few months, the health department director and doctor have Zoomed in with us and given us reports. You're aware that I've shown you some of the graphs and statistics. But this last week, we went from 33 million in the country. No, it's got to be in, oh yeah, in the country, from 33 million to 44 million in 1 month. COVID cases. And there were upwards of 4,000 new cases in Wisconsin. Delta County had 1,100 cases confirmed. Marquette had 900. October was 548 cases to date. Marquette had 900 just in that month. They're doing 400 to 500 tests per day in the county. And while kids are transmitters, they're not necessarily as harmed as the adults are, and the 20 to 29 age group is still the most consistent. I don't want to say passers, but the most affected would be the best word. And they did want to point out that school districts are making their own decisions on whether to open or close. The health department is not taking control of that. They're all independent. And they're, you know, in my grandson's case, my daughter gets a report every couple days, what's happening or not happening and who's been exposed. And they're all deciding on their own. So they are actually closing sometimes just grades rather than the whole school. So they're kind of experimenting with what works and what doesn't. So that was the gist of our last update. I don't know, John, if you took different notes or if you remembered anything differently.
No, I think the biggest concern, which is addressed in my report for this meeting, is the general upward trend of positive cases, hospitalizations, all the numbers that concern the folks at the health department that are trying to help manage this situation. And really, that's why we took some of the measures we did here at the office last week. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I just wanted to kind of give you guys an update. One more meeting we're doing. So we'll meet again tomorrow, like I said, usually about an hour. Okay, community linkage. There's nothing on the agenda, but I had a couple of things to share. I do have an interview next week for one of the seats on the Planning Commission. I'll keep you apprised of that. I have a woman who's expressed an interest, so I'll visit with her next week. And I mentioned it last meeting, but I wasn't sure if you remembered. We've been asked if we want to do another insert on the tax bill that's coming out. I checked with Dulcie yesterday, and we still have time. If there's something special that any of you would like to have the public find out, just let us know. Otherwise, if you remember, we did that last month. I'm not talking about the utility bill insert or the calendar. It's just the back of the tax bills that'll be going out. Last month we did welcoming John and saying thank you and goodbye to Randy. So if there's something important you think, I told him I would ask you if you want to, you know, inform the residents, because this covers everybody who's got a tax bill.
Hey, Lynn,
Yes, sir.
I would just continue on with people interested in serving on the committees.
Okay.
You know, that's the only way they're going to find out about it, unless we talk, you know, the way we talk to different people, see if they're interested in it, and be a good start. Somebody might say, yeah, I want to check on that. So
That's a great idea. We can list what's up and what the terms are, and because some of them are 3 years or 5 years or 4 years. That's a great idea. Thanks. And while I'm thanking, we've got to thank our election department, as it were. Randy and Lois have just worked their fingers to the bone with this election. And I know the election workers have too, and I can't thank them enough. Randy and Lois have put in a lot of long hours and long days, and they did an outstanding job. Average of like 74%. I'm sure that'll be part of Randy's report later, but I want to say thanks, because none of us could really help them. They were on their own. I did email to you tonight a letter of support that was drafted under my name. It pertains to the Public Works, the Public Works Department's working on it. Ryan's working on it. And the Eagle project that we have coming up. So I did email it to you right before the meeting, so you can kind of glance at it. I just kind of wanted permission to sign it. I don't know if we have to have a formal motion or anything, but in fact, I didn't send it to Roger. I probably should have done that. It's just a basic letter describing our support and that we would be doing some kind of a match, and that's kind of in question right now. It was $5,000, and whether or not we could do the in-kind type match. So I did forward that off to you. Roger, is something because the project has been approved by the board? I don't want to unilaterally just send out letters without the board seeing them or being approved, or, you know, I don't feel comfortable doing that. Is this all right to keep bringing it back, or does it need a motion, or what do you think? Does it need to be on the agenda next time, or?
Well, it doesn't sound like any further action is being taken at this point. That action has been done. So a motion is to basically initiate some type of action. So I'm not hearing anything based on my information of a need for a motion at this point.
It's just for me to send the letter of support that Ryan was looking for the grant. So if it's not necessary, that's fine. I did send it out to everybody, and like I said, I'll forward it to you too. It was very well written. John, go ahead.
If you're looking for consensus, I read what you wrote, and I would find no problem with it being sent.
Okay. Ryan wrote it. I don't know if John helped him or it was well done. Made me look good. Okay, that's fine then. Everybody's got a copy of it. I'll forward it off to Roger too. That's really all I had to share. Are you hearing anything from the public, or any phone calls, anything? People catching you at the grocery store? Pete?
Well, might be, I was going to do it at the end, but the other night I was driving my car and people are on the bikes now. We have to be very careful because they're out there with dark clothes on, no lights on the bike. It's very dangerous to see them shoot across, but I wish the Mining Journal or someone or TV6 would do something on it just to make people aware of it. And I would like to see someone take some action about pushing that to have lights on these bikes and that now, because you know, it's dark out there now. It's getting darker and darker earlier. So I'm just afraid somebody's going to get hurt. I don't know. I was astonished when this bike shot up the side of me. So I just thought I'd bring it up tonight. Maybe somebody will be listening and tell them, put something on their car or on their bike, or even a jacket or some kind of a light on their jacket or something, just to maybe might save a life.
Okay, I'll get a hold of both of them, the Mining Journal and the TV6, because we covered different demographics with both of those. So that might be a good idea to just kind of give them a heads up. Public service reminder thing.
Because a lot of people out there riding bikes now. In the wintertime, it's all the fat bikes, you know. It just, there are lots of them out there. I see them go by the house. I see them on the road and that. And finally made a bike for me.
No, I agree with you, Pete. I think some of them have those taillights that are super bright and they flash, and they've got the headlights, and I don't know how they can actually ride them without seeing, you know, where they're going. And somebody's going to be getting hit on them and hurt or killed. And I agree, something really should be done. A public service announcement to make them aware. But I had my neighbor last night just talking to a friend, and he rode by, and it was just getting to be that time of night. He stopped, he turned his tail light on, he put his headlight on, and much easier to see. It really makes a big difference.
Okay, let's see if we can do something about that. Anything else to share? Okay, board committee updates. Dave, what have you got from planning?
Well, it's real quick tonight. It's the Planning Commission from October the 28th, the Road Committee from today, and the Recreation Committee from October the 20th were all canceled. So there's no report to follow up on.
Son of a gun. What are you guys doing? I know planning's been awfully busy lately.
Well, there was some confusion with respect to the planning commission. There was some confusion over whether it had to be in person or online when it initially came out. And there was enough concern expressed going in person to manage a quorum that we just decided it was just better off to cancel it. It wasn't anything that significant going on anyway. We're waiting for the county's comments to come back on the marijuana text amendment and the food truck text amendment, and there just isn't anything else going on that can't wait until we got all this sorted out. Now it's all sorted out, so I guess the next meeting's on the November 11th. That's still scheduled to happen.
Okay, and is that Zooming?
Yeah, that'll be Zoom, and as with the road committee and the rec committee's next meeting is scheduled for November 17th, and it's December 1st for the next road committee meeting.
Okay, so if anybody is interested in getting a hold of those Zoom, whatever, credentials, address, those are on our website. I haven't had to access them from that way. You know, we get ours from the clerk for the most part. So how does the public access the planning Zoom meetings?
I'm not exactly sure what the process is because Jason sends them to us. I'm
Mhm.
sure they could get them from Jason if they wish to have them, but I don't know if they're on the website or not.
Okay, let me look into that. Or Ryan, do you know? Yeah, go ahead.
We've been pushing them out through email to all the members. We post them in the window as far as the URL at the office. And I believe Andrew's been posting them online, whether that's on the homepage or under the planning subsection. We'll make sure that they're posted online in both sections from now on.
Okay, more and more people are looking for that, and I don't know if our how our people that are listening to this meeting got their information, but Zoom is pretty easy to use, but it's really nice to just have that link to click on and not have to worry about addresses and passwords and stuff. So if we can make it as easy as possible for everybody, that would be great. So hopefully you should be able to check on our website then if you're interested in following up on those. Pete, what are we doing on events? We know we got the tree.
Got a meeting coming up on Friday at 11 o'clock to discuss the changes as far as the health department and things like that. There might be some changes in what we can do and we can't do. And we'll know a little bit more after that meeting.
Okay. Sounds good.
The tree this year is going to be a little larger than we had last year. So I think everyone's be happy to go by and see it.
Good deal. All right. Draft committee reports tonight involved the election committee minutes of October 20th, 2020. And then the first policy discussion is to consider officer and trustee salary resolutions. You know that we talked about this a few meetings ago, and it was recommended that we put it on this agenda. Randy, do you want to talk about that or?
Yeah, basically at one of our budget sessions earlier in October, the manager and the board felt it was appropriate to give the officers, well, the board actually had 2.5% increase. And these are the appropriate resolutions that make that happen. So we have to approve the supervisor, the treasurer, the clerk, and the trustees. So 4 resolutions we have to approve. And it is for the public, for the residents, it isn't that much money really. It's $1,200, I believe, total. So it's not like we're getting a $50,000 raise. It's very minimal and just trying to keep up with the current state of affairs. So I put these resolutions up, Lynn, and we can cover them each at each.
Yeah, just pulling up my packet, so it'd be easier if you did, sure.
Yeah, let me do that here.
If you remember when this, well, it wasn't even this board, it would have been 2 boards ago. It had been 8 years or so in between pay raises. And it's not like we do this for the money, absolutely. There's a lot involved behind the scenes that people don't see when you are trying to manage a township of this size especially. And we just want to make sure, one of the reasons we did this was to try to be uniform. And we picked the 2.5% because that's what the staff typically ends up getting, or in this case, they will going forward anyway. So it was not really an arbitrarily decided number. It was, you know, it has some consistency. And that falls to the other committees of what we have that are paid committees, which are, there's only 2 or 3, planning and board of review, and what am I missing? Aren't there 3?
Yeah,
ZBA.
planning, border review, and
CBA?
ZBA.
Okay. So anyway, yes, this is a total for all of them for the year. So it's not, it's just, you know, 10 or 20 bucks here and there. It's not a whole lot of money. And we do have the budget set aside for it. Do you need to read these, Randy, or?
I do not, because they're going to be in the minutes anyway, but we can cover each resolution one at a time, so. And I could ask Roger, I can't remember, do the officers that are involved vote on this, or do they abstain? I can't remember.
I guess to be safe, we can abstain. I know I looked it up and I don't recall at the moment either, because
Okay,
that was a
well,
couple months ago. But
How about if we just get started, with the supervisory salary increase that's offered, the resolution that's offered, I'll make the motion to pass the resolution as presented for the salary increase for the supervisor.
I'll support.
Okay,
Do you
any
want to
discussion?
put the 2.5 in each one, or does it matter?
Dan, it's listed. I don't want to put a percentage in there. The salary is listed and it's a 2.5% increase
Yeah,
from last year.
okay.
And we actually, once these resolutions are approved, that they're set until the board adjusts them again. So
Per year.
well, each year they have to approve it. So if it's a changed, if not, it stays as is.
I'll support that.
Actually, I supported it, but that's fine.
I was just looking to see what the difference is. The supervisors is $355 for the year. The clerks is $330 for the year. The treasurer's $241, and then the trustees are $96. Board of review, it's a $25 per year increase per person. Planning commission is $149, and the ZBA is $25. So it's not, you're not talking about, you know, 10 bucks a month. It's pretty nominal. Any other comments or questions?
Lynn, I have a question, if you would.
Go ahead.
We were just talking about, and it was mentioned that the officers that are involved in each individual resolution need to abstain. You realize that if you do that, you've got 4 abstentions when it comes to the trustees. You don't even have a quorum left to vote.
and in the meantime, I have looked that up, and abstention is unnecessary.
Okay, then I guess we don't need an abstention.
I remove my question.
Thanks. That's a good one, though. Okay, if nothing else, then roll call.
Okay, so the roll call on the supervisor's officer salary resolution is trustee Marks.
Yes.
Clerk retires, yes. Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
trustee Everson,
Yes,
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and supervisor Durant.
Yes,
Motion carries 7-0.
thank you. And thank you for that.
So that, so the next resolution is the treasurer's, and I will move to accept the resolution.
Support.
Any other comments? Roll call?
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Marks,
Yes,
trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
trustee Everson,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
That motion carries 7-0.
Okay.
Next
Right.
salary is the trustees.
what happened to the,
Clerk?
Clerk, I believe, is down below that. So we'll do the trustees next.
Okay.
Clerk Rattari will make a motion to approve the trustee's salary.
I'll second.
Support. Support.
Any comments? Okay, roll call?
Clerk Rattari is yes. Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
trustee Marks.
no,
Okay, trustee LaRue, or
Yeah.
let's see, trustee Everson, I mean,
Yes.
and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1. Okay, the next one will be the clerk's salary, and I'm not making a motion for that one.
I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution for the increase in the clerk's salary as posted.
Support.
Okay, comments? Roll call?
Trustee Marks,
Yes,
trustee Everson,
Yes.
trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
clerk Rattari is yes, and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
So just,
So those will be in effect for the next year's salary, starting in 21.
just for the public's purposes, we don't typically do all of these roll call votes. It's not required when we pass motions, but with some of the issues we've had with connections online, it's just much clearer to know who's voting yes. If we all just say A or nay, it's not real clear. So just so everybody kind of understands that, because that's a lot of roll calls. Okay, nothing else on that one?
No, we're good. I'll get the screen back here.
All right. Okay, next up is discuss open trustee seat following election. This has kind of confused a few people why I put this on the agenda. I'll try to explain my reasoning. This is not an action item tonight. It's for information. It doesn't happen very often that the board changes. You know, obviously it can be every 4 years, and we can lose all 7 members at one time if it should happen. During the course of any other business, a recall can happen and the board can change under those aspects as well. In this case, we had 5 of the current board members on the ballot, and 2 chose not to re-up, as they say. And we did have another person put their name on the ballot, so that person did get elected. So now we have an open board seat. And this is more, again, education for the public, more so than discussion for the board, because we all know what's happening, but the public really doesn't. And we have to keep remembering that we're educating them too. That's part of our job. So I just wanted everybody to be aware that both Pete and Dave, who did not put their name on the ballot, had considered afterward, or are still considering, being asked to be appointed. Now, when that happens, it's a 2-year appointment until the next election. You're shaking your head no, Roger?
That's what happens if the clerk calls a special election. my understanding, it's a 1-year appointment. If you
What?
make your appointment within 45 days from when the vacancy takes place.
Was the other part of the reason I wanted to discuss this, to make sure we had our ducks in a row too. When I told John that, I said, well, with Roger there, he can correct whatever it is that we don't understand. So I was all under the impression it was a 2-year appointment. If we did not make the recommendation or the appointment within 45 days of November 20th, I believe, that the county would step in. And I thought it was 2 years because in this case, it's to the next election, right? But because we don't have anything scheduled for next year.
There are election dates scheduled every year.
Okay,
So it would be the next general election
okay.
date. And that would put something on the election, on the ballot then.
So then we would be required to hold an election and then
Yep.
we have to pay for it.
Yes.
Okay,
And I will double check that before you take action on it. I'll triple check that. But there's a difference between if you make the appointment within 45 days after the vacancy occurs, there's one procedure and set of criteria for that scenario. Whereas if the board just does not make an appointment, then it falls to the county. And there's a nominating process by each political party of the 2 major political parties, who will then have a special election. And then that is the first general election in the even year. So that would be that's definitely a 2-year appointment in that scenario.
well, maybe that's the way I understood it. Okay. John?
The term of office for the people that are on the board now, it's the 20th. Is that not correct, Roger?
That is correct.
Okay, and that's when the vacancy would appear if there is one.
Mhm.
So until the 20th, the 45 days doesn't start.
Right.
So 45 days from the 20th of the month takes you into the next year.
Mhm.
So what we're talking about here, and I understand the value of what our supervisor is trying to do, is to make people aware there is coming up an open seat that will need to be filled by the township board. That's all she's doing, as I understand it. But
The next township board.
that just doesn't start until the vacancy doesn't start till the 20th of the month. And that's, I think the value of what's going on tonight is simply serving notice to anybody who might be interested that this is an action that the township board will be considering after the 20th.
Yep.
And serving notice so that everybody's on the same plane that has an interest. And steps will be taken to make sure that each of those people get treated equally.
Mhm.
Isn't that correct, Supervisor Durant?
Yes, sir.
I think that's what's going on, and I don't think, I think it's in order, but we need to just simply indicate that this is a notice of convenience so to get everybody on the same plane that has a common interest.
Mhm. Yep. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Randy?
So Roger, so when we appoint and say next month or before the 45 days is up, I would hope. So that's a 1-year appointment, correct?
That's what I will double check, but that's my general understanding. As long as the appointment is made during the 45-day period.
Okay, so that's a one-year term up to probably the 20th of the next year then. Well, can the board appoint again?
Well, you'll have no need to appoint again because they will have the opportunity to run.
I'm trying to get out of scheduling an election for next year because we're not supposed, that's gonna cost us about $3,000 to $4,000 or $5,000 if we do. So I'm trying to get away of not doing that because it'd save us some money.
I believe, again, I'll confer with you. I'll look at the statute more closely, but I believe the directive is you shall have an election on it. So that's mandatory. Now, I suppose if you just did nothing and let it default to the county, which is quite an unusual little procedure, and I'm not sure you want to go that route, but if you do, then under that scenario, it is a 2-year, there's an election, and that's a 2-year term, essentially. Well, it goes to the even year. It's not necessarily a 2-year term. It's just based on from when the vacancy starts. If somebody dies or resigns, and it depends on how far away the next election is. But I believe the language basically says at the next general election. Again, I wasn't necessarily prepared to present on this tonight. That's going from my recollection. And I will confirm that. I will look at it.
Yeah, why don't we just save this until the 17th because that's still within our purview here.
Yep. Dave, you had your hand up.
I have another question as long as Roger's going to go and do his homework. There is a provision that if somebody doesn't take the oath prior to the 20th, that somebody that's in the position is in a holdover position until that person takes the oath. And my question is if there's an unfilled seat after the 20th, is somebody put in a holdover position until January 1st or until that position is filled?
So if an appointment is made, let's say in December, is that the question?
No, my question is that everybody that was elected to the board has to take the oath again.
Correct.
And they have to take it before the 20th. The way I read it is if somebody doesn't, for whatever reason, and let's just assume for a minute we didn't have a vacancy, but for some reason somebody didn't take the oath before the 20th, then the person who didn't can't take his seat, and one of the trustees or one of the treasurer or whomever is filling that seat presently is put into a holdover position until that person takes the oath. So my question is, does that same rule apply for a seat that's vacant? There's nobody there to take the oath. And the holdover position is established until January 1st of 2021, and it doesn't truly become a vacancy until the 2nd of January. Does that rule still apply?
There is some case law on that, and it's more in the nature of when someone is sick or out of the country.
Right.
And
he was unable to take the oath.
Right, and I'll have to refresh myself. I think I know the answer to that, but that one I'm a little murky on. I will look that up. I've got pretty quick access to where I can lay my hands on what the answer to that is.
Well, I'm glad personally that I could cause you some confusion.
Yeah, this is so involved. I just, I could have researched it with Roger and Randy and come up with all the answers, but the board needs to be part of this discussion and the public needs to know what we're trying to accomplish here. Because we work for the public, so we need to totally keep them informed on our process. And I knew we had one more meeting to have that discussion too, because this will fall to the new board. It's, that's why I said there's no motions or anything tonight. We're not making any decisions. And it is not a supervisor appointment. This is a board appointment. So this isn't me coming even to you with a recommendation. We do this collectively. Roger, in your research then, do you know, or can you look up whether we need to, I know we do interviews, because I remember this from when I first got on the board, we had 4 positions to fill and we did do interviews. Are we required to put an ad in or solicit, or do we not solicit, or do people have to come forward? Are we restricted there any way?
The statute does not really specify any mandatory criteria for attracting applicants, but obviously, if you don't have any applicants, you've got nobody to appoint. So that's going to be up to the discretion of the board to determine how you want to get the word out.
Okay, that's what I
Same with
need.
interviews.
Yeah.
Whether you wish to
Or
conduct
not.
interviews or not.
Okay, that's fine. That's what I wanted to clarify, what we were specifically required to do, so we didn't miss a step.
You are correct, though, that in the past, interviews have occasionally occurred. Well, on the rare occasions you've had a vacancy to fill by appointment, that interviews were conducted. I recall at least one scenario.
Mhm. Randy?
Well, when we get this solved, at least I'll know whether I need to schedule or put money aside for an election for next year. So we'll find
Well,
out.
We do our budget next week. Unless Roger can give us an answer before our budget hearing, we'll know whether we need to send aside $3,000 or $5,000 too. So that'll help. Okay, anything else? Just want to make sure we all knew what we were doing. Roger, as far as you know, do we have any problem with the 2 outgoing board members like asking to be reappointed, or we ask them to be reappointed? Shouldn't be any issue with that, right?
No issue.
So if one of them decided that they were okay with the 1-year term or whatever, we could just,
Obviously, they'd have to be okay with that.
yeah, okay.
There's a constitutional amendment prohibiting involuntary servitude, so.
Yeah. All right, I'll put the handcuffs away. Okay. All right, thanks. Let's move on to 9C. Consider resolution 110420 to hold virtual meetings according to Senate Bill 1108-2020, as long as a state or local emergency is in effect. I don't know if this came directly from Roger or Randy. Randy is sharing.
John Kangas will handle this one, Lynn.
Okay, go ahead, John.
All right, so this is the resolution that you agreed to in concept at your last meeting. And really what it does is it summarizes the action that was taken under Senate Bill 1108, passed into law as Public Act 228 of 2020. And what it does is it allows you to hold virtual meetings through the end of this calendar year and through the end of 2021 under certain circumstances if a local or state emergency continues to be in effect. So we don't have to worry about creating a quorum in person as long as a COVID emergency remains in effect. But after the end of this calendar year, if we continue to do that, each member will have to indicate where they are attending from. And there's a couple of other issues that we will get to you as we approach January, assuming that these same circumstances will be in place.
Okay,
Move,
any questions on that?
move
Go
to
ahead, John.
adopt the resolution 110-420 on virtual meetings.
I'll support John's motion.
Okay, discussion? Thank you. Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Clerk Rattari, yes. Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Trustee Everson,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
I should point out that Attorney Zappa did review this too, so you're not approving something that I just wrote and sort of hoped I got mostly right.
You did a fine job.
Good, thank you. Next up, our favorite conversation about the Solid Waste Authority.
Goody.
Yeah. I don't know if you did receive the increased letter that we received about the solid waste tipping fee going up from Director Austin. And if you looked at their meeting minutes, I don't know, I believe we're all on that email address or that link. The last page, trustee comments, the gentleman that I believe he made the motion to do the increase said that he was, in past years, there was a fight all the time to increase the tipping fees, and he was glad at this time that there was no fight at all. So I did not attend that meeting. I don't know what else I had going on. I was probably working, but the minutes were pretty, they're doing what they want, which is their entitlement. But there are a lot of people that disagree with what's happening. And we talked about this before. We don't have a lot of suggestions as to what to do or not do or how to combat this unless all the townships got together. The 19 townships, if they happen to agree on something, doesn't matter what, do have a little more power than independently. So I just didn't know if we had anything to talk about. I saw Dave's hand and Pete's, so Dave, were you first?
Yeah, you
I
was.
guess we keep talking about this at least once a month, something that the Solid Waste Authority has done that annoys us. And you got to remember, we gave them that authority to just do whatever they want. I would think, well, we signed the agreement, right?
Yeah.
I would think our time would be better spent trying to get the balance of the townships together so that we can bring some actual pressure on them to change the way the representation is on the Solid Waste Management Authority. We're not going to change anything unless all the townships get together, and then it's very questionable if you can change it. So I would just think that instead of firing off heated mail to the authority, which does absolutely no good, they've proven that time and time again, we'd be better off to spend our efforts trying to get the townships together so that we can present a united front and see if we can get some of this change. But I truly don't think it's ever going to get changed until the contract expires.
Pete?
Lynn, are they saying that this is going to be just for 1 year or the length of the virus? And it goes, and then it reverts back. That's the way I'm reading it.
Oh, I read it just the opposite because they instigated 2% increase, I think, for 5 years every July last year. So that this July, I think, was the first one. So this adds on top of that. And then they just did another $6, I think, increase this summer because they didn't have enough money. You know, we kept asking them, where's the money coming from? Where's the money coming from? Well, we'll figure that out. We just need to do this because we'll miss our deadlines.
Well, it says right here, the tipping increase due to the impact of COVID-19. All right. So that's telling me that it's a virus goes away, this goes away. I mean, they're asking for increases here, but really as a resident, you know, we're suffering because we don't have the same program that we had before. We don't have the same thing with the glass or something like that. And we're paying extra for something like that. I don't think it's a very well thought out. I said it from the beginning, but so I'm reading this that it's for 1 year or the length of the virus.
Well, the virus isn't going to go away.
I know, but to what extent it is right now, it will go away.
I can get a hold of Mr. Nankervis. He's the chair of the County Township Association and see, you know, even he could zoom in on our meeting next time if he wanted to talk about it, or I'll connect with him anyway and see what he thinks, or I'm sure he's hearing from some of the other municipalities. Some of them on the west end don't even use this. Randy?
He shakes his head.
Yeah, I agree with Trustee Wiegand. Our time would be better spent to go after the Solid Waste Authority with the County Township Association, mounting a front and then putting pressure on the county board to, because they appoint, I believe, to the Solid Waste Authority.
Stay in the city.
Yeah, so that's where our time would probably be better spent because, as you know, authorities are independent of everyone, so.
Yep. Okay, I will get a hold of him. That would be good. Got to keep you informed and keep the public informed of what we're up against. Anything else on that, Dave?
Have we ever, and it's probably a foolish question, but have we ever looked at a more cost-effective way or place to send our solid waste?
Not that I'm aware of.
We can't.
Do we know if there's one out there?
We're required by this contract to send our waste there.
Mhm. That's why some of the discussion was what to do with people out of the county and whether they could go into the UP and Wisconsin. We're stuck.
So then how will some of Lynn, you said it made a comment, and that's what made me think of that. The townships that don't use this solid, where do they send theirs?
Wisconsin.
Then my question would be back to John as to if they can do it, why can't we do it?
If they signed on to the authority, they need to send their solid waste to that landfill. And if they're not, they're violating the contract.
They're paying. It's not like they're not paying. I'd have to find out.
They wouldn't be paying the tipping fees that we're paying.
They're paying their portion of it. And I didn't even know that people weren't. Jim, I don't know if Jim told me that or if it was at an authority meeting. Somebody said, well, I don't know if it's like Tilden Township. I'm not trying to put anybody under the bus, but there's some on the far west end that are not utilizing it. So I don't know what that means. I'll find out. I will find out. Okay. All right. I'll let you know. Speaking of solid waste, consider recycling grant agreements and purchase of carts. Ryan's earning his keep, I tell you, on some of this stuff.
Yeah, Ryan, you can share your screen also.
All right, let me pop it over here really quick. Let's see. I don't see the screen share option, Randy.
Yeah, let's see. Should be at the bottom. Can you do that?
Mine shows up green.
Yeah.
When I move my cursor down there.
Your bottom of your screen.
Oh,
Ryan?
there it is. Okay, does everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So what everyone should have in their packet right now is an action item regarding these recycling cart infrastructure grants with a little bit of background, as well as 2 separate grant agreements, one from the recycling partnership and one from Eagle, the State Department, which have both been reviewed by Roger. And they both refer to the grants and this little bit brief synopsis I'm going to go through at this point. I do wish that I was able to get a little bit more exposure regarding this to the board before now, but what we've really been waiting for was final confirmation from the state regarding their grant. But to go through and to give a little bit of history, our current recycling collection system in the township currently serves approximately 1,430 solid waste customers. And those customers have the option to recycle, which is picked up weekly with their regular curbside garbage collection. The township currently has available to residents 18-gallon bin totes, which you can see in the slide right here, at a price of about $16, but they're not mandatory. Residents can put a recycling sticker on any appropriate receptacle for $1. And now that the county's single stream service is online as of October 1st, they are, welcomed to collect any of these materials as a single stream, but into this one 18-gallon tote. So staff has applied for 2 separate grants that work together side by side really nicely, that would allow for us to purchase and provide at no cost to our solid waste customers a 64-gallon recycling cart. You might have seen these in some other neighboring communities that have rolled out with them as of late. They have wheels, a durable flip over lid, and they're made of a durable plastic material. They're larger than our current bins. Like I said, the current bins are 18-gallon. This is 64-gallon, but they're not as large as some of the ones that you might see for garbage collection, which are about a 96-gallon size. So it's kind of a nice, happy medium, still maneuverable, but larger capacity, the ability to have protection of recyclable materials. And hopefully the goal is that by providing these to the residents at no cost, it would encourage more recycling, more recyclable materials in the bin, less garbage waste going out alongside of it. You'll see on the screen that these are what we're proposing or having an idea of being labeled on a cart if we were to purchase these carts and get reimbursed for these carts. Marquette Township Recycles logo, which is currently on our totes, could be on one side. A Recycle 906 is a possibility to put on another side, and this informative recycling only graphic on the lid. But these are all things that is really up to the customer, the community that purchases the carts themselves. So to get into meat and bones of these 2 grants and how they work together simultaneously is really the only way that this is doable. The first grant is from a private organization called the Recycling Partnership, and they basically have a staff across the country that's just focused on providing communities with the resources to purchase grants at little to no cost. So they reimburse communities at $15 per cart that is ordered and delivered to a household. And they also match $1 per household for education and outreach materials, which is a requirement of their grant. Our grant agreement with them, our application was based off of 1,550 carts, which would have allowed us for some extra inventory. And that's what these numbers are based off of. The 24,800 is based off of 1,550 carts. We've since scaled that down to 1,500 to kind of leave us some room for extra inventory, but also to maximize, the opportunities that both of these grants are providing. And as such, there's some reporting requirements that their staff will assist us on for this grant, things like diversion rates, how much recycling we're actually, committing to or increasing is the goal. The second grant is through the state Eagle Department, Environment, Great Lakes and Energy Department, and it's their Recycling and Organics Infrastructure Grant, which has a total of $69,725. Now, the required local match for that state grant is 20%. So 13,945. The recycling partnership grant can be used for that local match, which is kind of a seamless operation as far as these two working together. And that's also a reimbursement type grant with its own reporting requirements, but they're very similar to the same that are required of the recycling partnership. So the staff at the recycling partnership has these resources that will allow us to report more easily on both grants. So we're looking at these numbers. What is the cost to the township? Any cost for these carts would essentially be for education and outreach match, which is at $1 per household. And any extra money that we can assume for not being reimbursed, and that would be extra inventory. So a little bit more of a breakdown. We currently have 1,430 current customers. If we were to order 1,500 carts, we would be able to provide all of these carts to the 1,430, retain 70 for future growth, which we're thinking, we've seen an average of 5 to 8, maybe 10 new homes every year, every 2 years. So a few years are out. The total order cost for that, everyone getting a cart at no cost with the 70 carts extra, would put us at about $68,665. And if you go back to what we're receiving from Eagle and what we can pay with the recycling partnership, that cost is going to be covered completely after reimbursement. So the only out of pocket that we can anticipate is $1,430. That's a very concrete number for the $1 education and outreach per household, which is a requirement of the first grant. And then any carts, the extra inventory that we wouldn't be reimbursed for. So 70 extra carts at $15 a piece would be $1,050. Total out of pocket, we're looking at about $2,480 for a total cart order total of nearly $70,000. When you look at the cents on the dollar per invested, we're looking at about $3.61 cents per dollar invested. So it's really an interesting concept and opportunity as far as these two grants working together. Nearby communities, Negaunee Township, the city of Ishpeming, Tilden Township, Ely Township, are all either have completed this process, and this is the way that they have gone about obtaining carts for residents, or they're looking at the process and are hoping to do it in the near future. Our goal is to, if the board likes this idea, to possibly work with Ishpeming Township on a bulk order, cart order, which would essentially decrease assembly and delivery costs. So really, I mean, if there's any questions regarding this, and I know some of the grant numbers might be a little much right off of the bat, I'd be happy to go through, any questions, any comments, any specifics for each grant, the recycling partnership grant, the Eagle grant. These two organizations have worked on these projects together throughout the state for years, and it sounds like they are really planning on continuing to do that. Both parties that we've reached out to and have worked onto it up to this point, have done some in the past, and it's really kind of a seamless, just working together. It makes a lot of sense for these two to be utilized at the same time. You might notice that both these two grants, tally them up, it's much more than we need for the cart order itself. So what would happen is the recycling partnership grant would most likely be scaled down just to cover the match and the education component of their grant itself. Like I said, I wish we had more exposure to this up to this point. We were really waiting for Eagle to get back to us with a concrete number. But I hope that everyone has kind of gone through the grant agreements, might have looked into this a little bit on their own, and I'll leave it up to the board at this point to kind of discuss and ask any questions that there might be.
Go ahead, Pete.
Ryan, now, if houses like duplex and triplex, do they need one for the building or 3 different ones or 2 different ones?
Well, I
Each?
guess that goes back to what they're currently set up as. If there's multiple customers paying into, for solid waste, or if there's just one at each household. So if there's a duplex in town and there's 2 customers in that duplex, then 2 would be placed at that home and recorded as being delivered to 2 separate customers.
All right, thank you.
How are we doing the apartment complexes?
So this one won't cover apartment complexes. This
Okay.
is just residential homes and customers only.
Okay.
Good question. Yeah.
If they currently have garbage on their utility bill, they would be considered a customer eligible under this opportunity. If they do not, they don't qualify.
Correct. Yeah. And yeah, they wouldn't qualify. We wouldn't be reimbursed for any cart that we would give them if that were to happen. Yeah.
And then obviously the businesses are contracting with an outside hauler, so they wouldn't be a part of this either. It's strictly residential.
Strictly residential. Yep. And we've talked to North Country, and they are all on board for collection by cart. They're retrofitting their trucks with tippers already. It's really kind of something they might be looking forward to as far as their workers not having to, scoop down and bend down and get the totes. And I know that there's been comments that I've heard, not directly, but there are concerns from some people in the community as far as they like having the smaller tote. They like being able to put it in their car, and if they have a long driveway, bring it down, pop it in, not have to carry it. And so some might be worried that they have to drag this big, hefty cart to the end of their driveway. But I also touched base with North Country on that. If they receive a cart, they don't have to use it. They can still use the tote as they have been. We're not making anyone switch. We're simply giving them the cart to use. And I think that, if I were given a cart to use for free, I would most certainly use it. And I'd probably recycle a little bit more if I have the space to do so. So our hauler's on board. When you look back at the money, our out-of-pocket cost, I don't know of any other way that we could purchase, or any community could purchase, this many carts, even with a little bit extra for future growth, for an out-of-pocket cost of $2,500. This is probably the cheapest that any recycling cart could be purchased at. And that's why we have the extra carts in there at this point. We could certainly just go and propose buying carts for the current customers that we have now. But to have extra and only be paying essentially $15 per cart, I don't think we would have an opportunity to do so in the future, in this same opportunity.
Ryan, where would the extra 70 carts be stored?
They'd be stored at the DPW building, if I'm not mistaken, John. Yeah, they take up, I think they stack 10 high. So 70 carts, we're talking 7 stacks. It wouldn't take more than 10 square feet. No, not 10 square feet, much less than that. But there's a, yeah, go ahead, John.
Between Public Works and the garage in the back, we've determined we have plenty of space to store 5 to 7 stacks of these things. So we've done some cleaning out over the past year, and we do have space to store them.
Thank you.
So how were you thinking of covering the 70,000 roughly? Which budget cost center?
The 70,000?
Well, it's a reimbursable, right?
Oh,
So
yes. Yeah, so
we have to
we
pay-
know that the solid waste fund is able to make a $40,000 loan to the TAP grant, correct? And there's about a $400,000 reserve in that fund, and that 400,000 number is kind of what we've established as our bottom basement number for reserve. To me, it makes sense that we use the fund that it should be allocated to, and that is the solid waste fund. So in the end, the net price out of pocket is at $24.80. We just have to pay the $68,665 up front and then get our money back relatively quickly.
And I do think it would be relatively quickly. The Eagle grant would be able to reimburse pretty quickly, minus a 5% retainment until all of the grant obligations are covered. The same goes for the recycling partnership, although that's a 10% retainment until all of the obligations are required for that grant. But once we would furnish a receipt and payment and invoice for the carts, that reimbursement would happen pretty quick.
Keep in mind, we have one delivery. Basically, it's going to take 2-3 days max, and every customer that we have will have received their cart. So from the time we get the invoice to pay the bill to the time we get reimbursed probably isn't going to take more than a few months, is my guess.
Pete,
Lynn, how are the customers going to get this cart? Are they going to be dropped off at their house, or do they have to pick them up?
Delivery to their driveway.
All right, good.
how do we do the outreach and stuff? Do we have to document that too and submit that as part of the grant if we're doing bill inserts or something?
So there are a number of methods for the outreach that the recycling partnership requires. And they have a dedicated staff, I think 2 dedicated staff that would be working with us directly to develop those. And it's really, kind of up to us. They have like 5 or 6 options. We would have to do 2 or 3, something like a mailer to them prior to getting the cart, a tag that would be included with the cart itself, which the distributor would actually be able to put in there with delivery. So the recycling partnership is kind of pushing for a push out date of May 3rd, and their team would be working with us 2 or 3 months prior to that to develop these resources to push out for education and outreach. And they would provide the $1 per household match on that as well to cover any of the costs associated with it.
So who actually owns the cart then? Does the township or does the resident?
The plan is that the township would retain ownership of it.
Okay, so would we want to, or maybe not, have the resident put their address on it so it stays with the property in case it's sold?
Yeah, and that was another topic of discussion within the office too, is looking at that. I do know that when the cart distributor, so Cascade Engineering is the cart, they produce the carts, and they have a distributor that delivers them. They actually scan an RFID chip that's within the cart, and that gives a location and a confirmation of where the cart has been delivered and to what address. So after they deliver, we have a whole list of each address that actually received one. And we could retain that list, and I'm sure we could keep it up to date with any changes. We'll have to see how relatively easy that is, and we'll have to see maybe if North Country has got RFID scanning capabilities as well too, if there were any changes. But if a resident wanted to put an address on there, I'm sure that would be fine. We could work something out.
I was mostly thinking in a windstorm in the hills in Trowbridge, especially, that 2 or 3 carts go waddling down the road. Then everybody just grabs one, or that's why I asked who was responsible for it.
Right.
So if
Right.
we got, 100 Center Street or whatever, we know where to take it back to too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose if that did happen, a customer lost their cart and wanted a new one, I'm sure we could then confirm with the list of the original distribution list and what was actually delivered and compare that to any that we might have in inventory and I guess handle it that way, see if we can actually give them an extra one that we have in inventory, or if it was lost or damaged till just can't find it, it's gone in thin air. Possibly we could just give them another one or give it to them at cost. The big thing is that we don't profit off of these carts. We're not giving them to the residents to make money off of it. It's to give it to them at no cost to encourage recycling, create more uniformity within the community, not have recyclables flying everywhere when there is a big windstorm, that type of thing.
Okay, Pete?
A couple of neighbors, windstorm the other day, they're flying down the road and I went and picked them up. And on the top of the cover, they just put their address on it. They put some, just painted
Yeah.
they name on it, just the address. And so.
Okay,
might be a suggestion.
anything else? I can't see the whole board, Ryan, so I don't know if anybody else has their hands up.
Yeah, shoot away. I mean, if there's any, point of discussion or clarification, be happy to provide it.
I think you did a nice job.
Mhm.
It's certainly been a culmination of seeing what was going to happen. I mean, we applied for these grants earlier in the year. The recycling partnership came back pretty quickly, and the state intended to do the same. And then when all of COVID hit in March, I don't think we really thought that this was going to be something that would come to fruition or this point, because we were hearing that the state wasn't going to release full funding, only partial funding, and this is only the really way that it would work. And they came back last month and it was full funding. So, the way that they work together, we thought it'd be a good opportunity and see if, now is the right time to try to do something like this or not.
Okay, Dave?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve both recycling grant agreements and authorize the purchase of 1,500 recycling carts at an amount not to exceed $68,665.
I'll second that.
Okay, any other comments? Good, go ahead, Randy.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Everson,
Yes.
trustee Marks,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes. Yes.
clerk Rattari is yes, and supervisor Durant.
Yes,
That motion carries 7-0.
well
Thank
done.
you, guys. Yeah,
One
a lot of
last,
effort.
Good work.
Yes, and whoever helped you, if you did it alone, that's great, but don't want to forget anybody.
No, yeah, it was a group effort on everyone's parts, and I think it'll be something really positive in a year that was kind of all over the place.
Yep.
Ryan did all the work on this. So he deserves the pat on the back.
Good
I
job.
appreciate you guys taking the time to
Absolutely,
hear me go over everything.
that's important. All right, next up, 2021 road rehab maintenance and authorization request for proposal development. Who's got that one? John? or Dave or,
I think Ryan has that, don't you, Ryan?
yeah?
I don't have anything to share, but I know there was in the packet. It was actually supposed to be at the last board meeting after we had talked about the 2021 road maintenance considerations in at the road meeting. Essentially, you want me to see if I can pull it up here real quick?
Yeah,
I'm still
hold on.
sharing, aren't I?
Hold on, Ryan. Let me put you back here. Okay, you should be able to share again now. You see it? Can you share?
Yeah, you're gonna have to bear with me here. Sorry. Essentially, we had, well, now I'm not connected to the server, so I apologize.
I can like I say, I can't pull it up. I guess I can pull the packet up, Ryan, for you if you want.
Yeah, everything is in the packet.
Ryan, I can
Yeah.
help you out there a little bit if you want.
Okay, well, yeah, I see it on the screen now. So essentially, we're coming to the board for kind of approval and the next step on the planning commission's. So at the planning commission's last meeting, they recommended the 2021 road maintenance rehab street candidates and treatment candidates. And we're looking for the board to approve the same thing and authorize ultimate RFP development similar to the last few years. We kind of went through the RoadSoft software and kind of tweaked it a little bit. So hopefully our road candidate cost estimates are a bit more on track than what they were for 2020. We've got considerable amount of crack sealing that is proposed for a number of subdivisions and neighborhoods, a fair amount in Trowbridge area, South Van and Boom, Northwoods, Brickyard, Morgan Meadows, spread out. We do have on the candidate list a new treatment type, which is called GSB 88. We'll see what the price point comes back at. And we do have a couple segments for chip seal. I think the road committee expected those prices to come back a bit higher than what was estimated on the cost. But essentially the cost, Randy, could you scroll down real quick or?
It's out there. Let me see if I can flip this here. Got it rotated.
Or maybe the board action item.
Okay, up on
Would
top.
have it. Or Dave, do you remember what the total cost was for the road candidate estimate?
Yeah, it was, the total cost, the crack seal was 47,654. The alternate treatments, there's two different alternate treatments. One is for chip seal plus, and that was estimated at 14,755. And then we have an estimate for some of that GSB 88, and that total estimate was $4,470.40. The road committee felt that those two are probably, because of the small volume, are probably going to come back higher than that. That's why we wanted to put them in there in the RFP as an alternate treatment so that we can eliminate it if they come back too much higher. All those roads that are included in the alternate treatment are also included up in the crack sealing. So they are going to receive some treatment. There's 30 segments altogether that are being considered, most of 30 segments in crack sealing, and there's 3 segments that are included within that crack sealing that are being considered for some alternate treatments.
And typically RFP development hasn't been more than, I think it's been $3,900, and that's included within the road budget for this year. So I hope that we're right on point with our estimates.
Yeah, I think the budget is simply mid 60,000s for the roads this year, and I think we're going to come in probably a little under that budget, if not right at the budget with the RFP.
And that includes the GS 88 too?
I don't hold out a lot of hope for the GS B88. I think that's going to come in considerably higher because when Farner come out and looked at it, he recommended a lot larger area to have received that treatment, and I'm sure that's got a lot to do with his unit pricing. And I think when we come out with this RFP and we're only recommending 2 segments, I think the unit price is going to go up. That's going to push that too far on the expense category. We're not going to be able to do it. But that remains to be seen. That's why we wanted to leave it in there, a portion of it anyway.
Glenn,
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2021 road rehab maintenance and authorize an RFP.
Support.
Okay. Thank you for interjecting. When there's something on the screen, I don't see the whole board. So if you're raising your hand, I can't see it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thanks for that. Okay, any other questions for Dave or Ryan? Thanks. Okay, roll call.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Marks?
Yes.
Hold on here. Someone's trying to call me in the middle of a roll call vote. Okay, so Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Trustee Everson,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
yes,
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
I'd still like to, I'm really curious about that GSB 88, if it's going to be effective, cost effective, if it's going to work. If you get to the point where you need like $1,000 or something to make that work, just as a test, I'd be curious.
Well, when the RFB is done, it comes back to the board again. And you'll be able to consider if you want to do either one of those alternate treatments or if you want to do none of those alternate treatments. So it'll be back at the board table when the RFPs are done.
Okay, Dan?
Yeah, is that being used anywhere in our geographic area? And if not, maybe they're interested in seeing how it works up here. So, maybe we're going to have a little bit of negotiation room to move with it, to try it out. Be curious. I don't know if it's being used anywhere up here at all or not.
Ryan's got quite a bit of information on that. I'm sure he'll weigh in on it.
I tried to reach out and did reach out to a number of communities nearby. I couldn't find anyone that does it in the UP. Farner does a fair amount of it down near Green Bay and Madison area. Cadillac, County of Cadillac does some of it as well. A lot of it's down southern areas, more Illinois, south of Illinois. Everyone I talked to had some really mixed feelings about it. They really either loved it or they never tried it again.
So
I don't know.
temperate specific, if it has something to do with, that's I guess why I'm wondering if it'd be good up here.
Yeah,
We
if
do
it's
have like a number of good candidate roads. Farner was saying it's best used on roads that were rebuilt within the last 3 to 4 years, which we have significant amount in the Trowbridge area, especially. And that's where they did the price estimate on. Short section, test section, I think would be a good idea, but if it doesn't make sense to try it out with each maintenance program each year, it doesn't make sense. We'll see.
Well, if I could interject a little bit there, that's why those road segments were selected to try the alternate treatment for the RFP, is because they're more heavily traveled roads and they have just been resurfaced. So they'd be good candidates to see how it's going to hold up under traffic.
I think we need to try to figure out how to make that work if it's possible. Pete?
Dave, wasn't this a process come out of Houghton Tech? Weren't they experimenting with this also?
Ryan, you'd be better off to get that right out of Ryan because he's the guy that did all the research on it.
I don't think that GSB 88 was heavily, like researched or developed at Tech. I talked to their CTT program up there who does the road soft, and they've got a lot of road engineers. I don't know who that's kind of their expertise, and they didn't really have a lot of input on it. I know Tech was looking at some of the recycling mix, like the rubber recycling mix that they were kind of thinking about doing on Commerce Drive last year through a grant, but I know that grant kind of fell through. So I don't think they really have any specific knowledge of GSB 88. At least they didn't when I talked to them. If they do, they're holding on to it and they're not letting me know, but couldn't get anything out of them.
All right.
What if we call Tech and say, hey, we'd really like to try this. How about putting in a couple $1,000 or give us some engineering time or something like that so we can test it out and see if it would work for you too. See if we can partner with them somehow.
I can shoot for it.
Yeah,
Might as well try.
sure. Anything else on that?
I think what you might be better off thinking about is, I know Tech was going to do a test project on Commerce and the grant fell through. I just wonder if you wouldn't be better off to explore some of those options for a cheaper resurfacing. Something that you can get the support of Tech on. I think Tech would be more into doing that without the grant money. Obviously, they're not moving forward on Commerce, but if you want to sample something and how it holds up, that might be a better solution than this GSB 88, because there's not a lot of great reviews on GSB 88. I know the company comes out and raves about it, but you can find as many reviews that are not in favor of it as you can that are in favor of it. So there might be a better option out there. This was just to take a look at it and see how it came in on the cost. But in all reality, for my personal opinion, you might be better off to work with Tech on some of their recycle projects.
They're always working on something up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see and for Commerce too.
They've been real good to work with anyway. I mean, right from this time we started this whole rehab project, Tech's been right in there doing whatever we needed to get done. So I think to maintain that working relationship might be a little more in our better interest than reaching out to something that's not quite in their wheelhouse.
I talked to a guy in Escanaba from Houghton Tech, and he said he'd be willing to come to any meeting and explain different things what they're working on and that too. So that was about a year ago or so.
Well, now he doesn't have to come. He can just turn on his computer. It's even easier.
Exactly.
The GSB may be more geared for warmer climates too, if it's have more success down south. Okay, onward.
Onward.
Okay, let's consider purchase and installation of electronic entry system. We've been talking about this for a while, and now it's really come to it with COVID. I don't know if I'm sure most of you have been in the office that you can see what we've done or what John's done with his office with all the plastic and the screening and the protection. So this is kind of a little bit the next step. Randy had suggested this a while back too. Who wants to take lead on that?
John.
How does it work? How does it work, John?
How does it work? It's basically a fob type card that you wave. So touchless, all you have to do is pull on the handle after you wave. It activates the lever that pushes the deadbolt in. You pull the door and in you go. So it's just another added layer of security. We would put it on the two doors that enter into the employee work area. The system that we're proposing is expandable up to, I think it's 8 or 10 additional entry points. So if we decided we wanted to do it for the two main entries on the front of the building, the side of the community room, the back of the boardroom, we could do that at a later date. The nice thing about it is if you have an employee that leaves whether it's prematurely, abruptly, whatever, you deprogram their entry card and your security is done. You don't have to worry about whether or not they have additional keys that they made without your knowledge. It's probably one of the better security features about it, but it also reduces the amount of surfaces you have to contact to get in the building as well.
I've seen him at the hospital doing the same thing. I was in there for ultrasound, and the girl, in order to go through this door, she had to take her card and swipe it, and then she just opens the door and walks in. So it works pretty simple.
Yeah, so this isn't the type of card that you actually have to slide through a slot.
You just
Will
wave
that
it.
wear out too quick. You just wave it in front of the device that senses it, and it will trigger that mechanism to push the deadbolt in.
Dave, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just a question on which doors we're talking about. We're talking about the door that has a combination lock on it now and the door that enters the main offices that's next to the reception area?
Correct.
Or you're talking about the doors that enter the reception area?
No, it would be once you're into the reception area, you would wave the fob at the device on the, it's a wooden door right next to Sandra's desk.
To get beyond that reception area, you need the card.
Correct.
Okay.
John, do you need that card to get into the Andre before you get to Andre? Do you need that at the double doors there?
Not
Or
with
directly to
this
the office?
proposal. This proposal wouldn't go that far beyond the employee's work area.
That's
Randy?
the double door going in before you come to Andre, and there's another wooden door going into the office part.
It would be at the wooden door.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead, Randy.
I'll move to accept the purchase of the installation of the system.
Support.
Okay. Any more questions?
The only comment I'd have on it, Lynn, is I don't know if you guys have been into the office, but Andra's now glassed in. So in the office area, it'll be more secure for the employees. And we won't have any unauthorized people back. So I think it's a big step in our security of our office these days.
Anything else?
Good.
Yep, Dave or Pete?
John, as far as your security for the office, do you want board members coming into the office?
Obviously, you still have to get your mail and that kind of thing. If you are personally uncomfortable with coming in, all you have to do is let us know and we can get your mail to you. That being said, you're not here for that long. I think the most I've seen any board member recently has been maybe a half hour. We're still exercising all the proper protocol, maintaining social distancing, wearing masks when when two members not of the same household are in the same space. If we're walking around in shared space, we put our masks on. So I guess that's really the one thing that board members need to know. Once you enter the building, you are in shared space and you should have a mask on. So
I just wanted to get that question out there.
Anything else? Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Clerk Rattari, yes. Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Trustee Everson,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand.
Can't hear you.
Muted.
Dave's muted.
Yes.
Okay. Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Yeah.
Treasurer Johnson,
yes,
Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
thank you.
Okay.
And John, what was the cost on that? It wasn't, I don't have it in front of me. It wasn't that much though.
$5,327.90. There are other systems out there that are double that easily. I think this is a good compromise system that is expandable if we choose to in the future.
And we do have funds in this year's budget due to events not happening to cover this.
Okay. Any emails?
I have none.
Okay. Any of our public that's here, would they like to address the board? Hi, Alec, go
Hi.
ahead.
Hey, thanks, everybody. Appreciate
Alec, can you give me your address, please?
Sure. Yeah, I was just about to do that, Randy. I'm Alec Lindsay, 1913 West Fair. And appreciate it, all you serving on the board. And I actually really appreciate you doing this meeting with at least sort of electronic access. I've come to some township board meetings in the past before COVID, and I find it a good thing just to stay in touch with what my township is doing, and this makes it a lot easier. Even if to go back to face, I'd encourage the board to think about maintaining some mechanism to provide this sort of access. And then just a second comment, and that's part of the reason I was interested today was a discussion about the trustee appointment that will be forthcoming. And I was looking around on the website trying to find a document that had, I could find your board packet and look that over, but I can't find anything that has sort of board duties or responsibilities or bylaws on your website. So none of that seems to be public, or at least it's not in any of the places where I was finding it. So I would just encourage you to post those publicly.
Great idea.
Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, if you have some sort of a document like that, I think it'd be great. And thanks again for your service.
Sorry. I think we have bylaws and committee type stuff, but yeah, I don't think we have anything on the board. I'm not sure. John, can you check on that for us?
We do.
I could address that, Lynn. The reason, Alec, we don't have that on there is because we have statutory duties, and that's what our jobs are. So we can probably provide a link to the MTA or to the appropriate state website, but most of our jobs are statutory, so we can't really go out of those roles. We do have a code of conduct, and we did pass policy governance that we can, or a modified version of it that we could probably post that would help you, but that's where we can probably get you the most information on it.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing. Like I was interested if you use policy governance, if you use Carver's model of policy governance, things like that.
Kind of a modified version of it.
Okay. And, just anything else that has to do with how, meeting times, or, how many meetings a person has to go to before they can get kicked off and things like that. But anyhow, yeah, I'll look around and maybe I could communicate with Randy or somebody else directly. I don't want to take up any more of your time. So thanks.
No, that's fine. We're here for you. Appreciate you participating. If you have ideas, let us know too. We do, even prior to COVID, we were recording the meetings and they were on YouTube. So the easiest way to get to that even now is, are we still on YouTube though, Randy? Is this separate?
No, I upload these right after the meeting on YouTube, so they're there.
So from the website, go down to the very bottom in the right-hand corner, and when you click on the YouTube link there, it takes you to the most current meeting. Sometimes if you go to YouTube and you just try to type it in, you get, May of 1885 or some stupid thing.
Wow.
So that is the easiest way to get it, just from the website. So that's good. Nice to have some interest. Thanks. Anybody else want to address the board before we finish up? Reg?
Can you hear me okay?
Gotcha.
Okay. I appreciate the interest in protecting us bicyclists that Pete brought up, but I just want the board to look at the law in Michigan. It's a half an hour after dark or sunset that you have to have a light on the front of your bike and a reflector only on the back. In my case, I don't try to ride roads very often, but I do put my lights on during the day. I have what you might call an extremely strong rear reflector light that flashes red, red, red. And then in the front, I have my white light. I completely agree with Pete saying, we've got to inform the cyclists to at least follow the law after sunset. But today, when everybody's texting, not paying attention, I hate to ride my Roubaix on the road, but sometimes I do because I make a long ride out to the island or back, but I have to take some roads to get back to my location.
even when I mountain bike to the North Trails, I'll put my rear deflector on so it's flashing red on the way down to the North Trails at the power plant there, the gas plant. So look at the law, but also I'm not sure you can change anything during the day. You'd have to change the law probably to do it. I'm not sure if I'm correct. Maybe John Kangas can correct me if I missed a few things, but just wanted to point that out to you. Okay.
And Reg, what's
Thank
your address? I have to ask.
Oh, I'm sorry. 2523 US Highway 41 West. Representing
Thank you.
Motor Inn, who has a lot of mountain bikers that stay with us.
Pete?
And also with that, Reggie, is that when you're passing a bicyclist, you have to stay 3 feet away from their bike. So, I mean,
I was not aware of that, Pete. Thank you.
yeah, 3 feet away from that bike when you're going around a bike. So we have to try to protect them. I'm glad that more and more people are getting out there doing that, but we want to be safe with it too.
Thank you.
John?
The township has a good working relationship with NTN Trails Network right now. I'm wondering if maybe we should reach out to them and work with them on a PSA regarding this. And I'd like to add, having ridden down the bike path out to Presque Island back myself last night, my son and I had headlights on. We did not have taillights. And I remembered once it was too dark and we were too far from home, but that's a good point, Reg. Pedestrians as well. When it's really dark and there's no ambient light to show where other users are, especially if there's headlights that are kind of providing a glare, you sometimes can't see those other users. So those other users need to identify where they are. Even if you don't need to see where you're going, other people need to see you. So that's what we need to remember. And I would be more than happy to reach out to NTN and just suggest that we work on a public service announcement regarding that.
That's a great idea. What about, you always wear those little different shirts and stuff. None of those are really reflective either, are they?
A lot of the warmer clothing have reflectorized stripes and splotches on them. What you see in the summertime generally doesn't have as much of that. I know the boots that I wear this time of year actually have a reflectorized stripe along the back of them, which would help if there's light shining on them, but it's not consistent. So I think putting the lights on your bicycles and carrying a flashlight if you're a pedestrian, even runners. I've seen runners with red lights on their backs, but nothing on the front. And this is on a fairly well lit street. I didn't see the person until I saw the glow of the light on their back. So.
Well, that's all good information for us and the public, whoever's watching. Okay. I think that's it for public then. Any announcements anybody wants to share? Randy?
All right. Well, it was a busy election yesterday, one for the record books for us as far as numbers. I don't have the numbers for the proposals in front of me, but the library and a recreation millage both passed around 70% each of them. So that's good. I'll pull up here our statistics for numbers. So for precinct 1, which is our biggest precinct, yesterday we had 706 voters in person and 1092 absentees for a total of 1798, and that's 70.54%. And in precinct 2, which is south of the highway, our smaller precinct, we had 314 in person and 583 absentee for a total of 897. And that's about a 75% participation. And so you can see the previous elections back to 2016 and even beyond here. This is our biggest voter turnout ever. So, and I'm proud to say that with the help of the great election workers yesterday and I think everything went off with no problems. We did have a few minor glitches, but you always do. But for the most part, we were done counting. Both precincts were done by about 9 o'clock, 9:30. Absentees were done about midnight. I got everything to the county about 12:30. And so we were done by 12:30. So
Good.
the real
Great.
hitch was trying to get the absentees processed in a timely manner, because you got to open them, record them, and then put them through the machine. And we had 1,645 of those to do. So, or 1,675 actually. So that was kind of a monumental task for my workers, but they were good. And I would like to thank them for working pretty hard yesterday and being patient with some of the residents in this COVID era. But for the most part, everything went well, and we're onward to the next election. Hopefully not next year, but if we have to have one, I guess we will.
Good job, Mr. Clerk.
Yeah, any questions?
Yeah, I'm wondering, some of the, what did it say, spoils or something? Or was that write-in candidates when 30 or so on each, almost on each one of us were like spoils or something? Were the actual,
Oh, well, there's write-in spots, and a lot of those folks maybe missed the circle and put it below it. And it records it as a write-in, even though there's nothing there. It's just the way the ballot is set up. And I think a lot of those were just voters just filling in the wrong circle.
and then
And
two,
for a write-in to count anyway,
I
they
was
have
gonna-
to be a certified write-in. And we had a list. There was no there was no local certified write-ins. We had a few for president, which we found 2 votes for, and that was about it.
so just so the public knows that if they wanted to be a write-in candidate, they'd have to go down to the courthouse and fill out some paperwork and say, I'm not part of this election, but I do want to be available as a write-in candidate, and then people can vote for them.
Yeah, they have until the 2 Fridays before the election. They have to go in and be a qualified write-in, fill paperwork out, and they would need 10 votes to win.
Okay, it's kind of late to
10
mention,
write-in votes to win.
but some people get confused. They write names in thinking that they will count, and they really don't unless they're recorded as being a candidate at the courthouse.
Yeah, or here, we have the forms here. They could come here also.
Yeah. Okay, any other announcements? Okay, managers report.
Well, I think I covered most of it earlier under the COVID-19 discussion, but you will see also in your packet the new preparedness and response plan. This came about as a result of a discussion that we had with our labor attorney last week. He sent me 3 different examples. This one was the one that applied to our township operations. So I inserted Marquette Township, and basically they had a few sections highlighted in yellow that were to be customized by us. And this will be the new plan moving forward that replaces the prior plan we had in place that was established according to the governor's executive orders. Those executive orders have now been invalidated by the state Supreme Court. So we needed to update our plan regardless. And most of what's in this new plan is what was in the old plan. There's just a few other minor distinctions that really probably aren't worth spending too much time on. They're just making sure that we're covering all of the DHHS and OSHA requirements from recent administrative rules, emergency administrative rules put in place. So everything that's necessary to protect our employees, what they need to do if they are exposed to the virus or have a positive test, if they have to go into isolation or quarantine, what we have to do if they can't come to work for that period of time. So all of that's covered. A lot of it was in the old plan. Is now it's just according to administrative rules as opposed to executive orders. So the other thing is we need to make sure that all of our employees are properly trained on this new plan, which I'm rolling out this week with those that are in the office and next week with those that are on the alternating rotation. So once they're trained, they have to sign an acknowledgement form. We put that on file so that there's no question that they aren't aware of what we should be doing. That's not to say we haven't been doing everything we can to inform them of what they need to be doing to protect themselves and their coworkers when they're in the office. So anyone that's been here knows we have a new sign-in area once you walk in through the south employee entry door. We've got hand sanitizer, we've got disinfecting wipes. There's a form you fill out to check in. That form, once you fill it out, goes into a lockbox that gets emptied up out into sealed envelopes that later go into a file in my office. There's a infrared thermometer for people to check their temperature if they're not sure, if they have a fever. We're not requiring that they tell us what their temperature is. It's just they need to know that if they're around 100 degrees, they need to turn around and go home. So that's about it. As far as board members coming in to get their mail or whatever, we're not requiring you fill those out because you're not normally here long enough anyway. The CDC guidelines are 15 minutes of total contact within a 24-hour period. So very rarely do we have that, especially within the 6-foot social distancing limitation. So I guess that's the biggest thing that I wanted to mention regarding this, other than to point out that we are only allowing half the staff to work each week in the office. Everyone else is working from home. We are asking them to give us daily updates of work they've accomplished. Basically, they're all sending me an email every day. And if they're not, I'm reminding them that they didn't send me it, and then they do. So if anyone's ever curious about what people are working on, I do have those summaries. It's actually very enlightening. You find out things going on that otherwise you might not know about, and it's all good stuff. So that's about it.
Any questions for the manager? I'll have to switch screens here. Pete?
John, the other day when I picked up my packet, I called Andre and she met me at the door. Is that all right, or to take her time to do that, or do you prefer us to walk in and grab it and walk out?
If you are more comfortable not coming in the building, that is a perfectly acceptable way of doing it. If you are a customer here to conduct business, that's how we do it. You call ahead, we meet you at the door, we conduct the business basically curbside, and nobody has to come in the building. And in fact, we prefer that when it comes to our customers. That's why we have the office closed. But anyone that needs to do business with the township is still able to do it as long as they either call ahead or meet us at the door.
Thank you.
John, we had talked about the MTA $2,000 membership or whatever it was, 1,800. Where are we with that? So all our committees and board members know?
I have not registered for that. Thank you for the reminder.
Okay,
I
good.
will try to get that taken care of first thing tomorrow.
And I'm not sure if we would get, because we get numerous messages from MTA all day long anyway. And I don't know if being a subscribing member gives us something different, so we know specifically we can sign up for it. You know what I mean? Like a members only, different list or whatever.
I'm assuming once we register for that training, they will give us some sort of access code. Soon as I do my part, which I apologize for not having done yet, I will make sure that any necessary information gets disseminated to the board, the various committees where it's appropriate, and to all of staff.
Okay, sounds good. Maybe we can, we'll do a follow-up on that next meeting too, because it doesn't just involve the board, it's everybody. So I want to make sure, our road committee or the events committee or, any of our committees, employees have access to that. Okay. Any other questions for the manager? Sounds good. Would you review our motions, Randy? Where did you go? You moved.
I'm here. I'm
We-
here.
Shifting around.
Okay, first motion of the evening was to approve the consent agenda as presented. That was approved. Second motion of the evening was to approve the regular agenda, and that was approved as presented. The third motion of the evening was to approve the supervisor's salary. That was approved. The fourth motion was to approve the treasurer's salary resolution, and that was approved. Fifth motion was to approve the trustee's salary resolution. That was approved, 6-1. And the sixth motion was to approve the clerk's salary resolution, and that was approved. And these are all for 2021 budget year. Seventh motion was to approve the resolution 110420 to hold virtual meetings according to the Senate Bill 1108 2020, as long as the state emergency is in effect, and that was approved. Eighth motion was to approve the recycling grant agreements and purchase of carts. That was approved. The ninth motion of the meeting was to approve the 2021 road rehab maintenance and authorize an RFP to go out. That was approved. And the 10th motion of the evening was to approve the purchase and installation of the electronic entry system, and that was approved.
Excellent, thanks. So I know Randy Gerard used to have meetings on Friday or be Wednesday mornings, after our board meetings. John, have you got a way of notifying your staff? Are you Zooming maybe with everybody after our board meetings, or have you gotten that far? How are you informing them what we're up to?
It's interesting you should bring that up because we had just started doing staff meetings the day following board meetings, and we were meeting in person
Okay.
until the new rules came out that kind of suggested we shouldn't all be gathering in the same room like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping we can schedule a Zoom meeting with all of staff before the end of the week to catch up regarding this meeting. I don't have the Zoom login information, so I'll try to work with Jason to get that set up.
Yeah, or Randy, they both do that stuff.
And actually, John, you can create your own account. If you're just not going to go longer than 45 minutes, you'd be okay.
Yeah, and it's free, right? We
It's
don't have.
free. Yep, it's free.
Yeah. So whatever, as long as they know, especially since you'll be doing halftime or whatever you want to call it with the staff, So basically, so the board knows, like Dulcie will be in all 1 week and then off the next working home. Jason will be off 1 week and off the next going home, and they'll rotate rather than doing like every other day. We thought it'd be a little bit easier and safer this way. So you've got less exposure to new people every other day. So we'll see how it works.
We're halfway through week 1, so so far it's working. We'll see how it impacts us long term.
Sure. Okay, so nothing special for the future agenda unless somebody's got something they want to talk about. We'll kind of go over the lost my train of thought.
Nothing pressing, Lynn, right now.
Yeah, I'll follow up. Any board member comment? Anything anybody wants to share? Okay, we just need one more motion then.
I move to adjourn.
Support.
Okay. Roll call?
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Everson,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Marks,
Yes,
trustee Wiegand, treasurer Johnson,
You're muted.
you're muted. Just give me a thumbs up. I can see you. Okay, he said yes.
Okay,
And trustee Durant
yes,
Trustee,
Yes.
carries.
yeah. Past tense.
it's been
And
a
I
long
got
2 days, Tom.
8:36 PM, Lynn.
Sounds good to me.
All right, good night, everyone.
Hey, thanks again, Randy.
thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.